promote racial justice. She went to South Texas to register long-time citizens who were predominantly Mexican Americans who had been systematically excluded from the political process. She came home to Arkansas with me in the Ozark Mountains and brought poor mountain people the first access they ever had to the civil justice system with the legal aid program. She's been doing stuff like this all her life. So when I became president, we tried to get health care reform, and we failed, as everybody knows, because we didn't have 60 votes in the Senate, which we had when President Obama was there with no votes to spare.
Yeah.
Right? So she didn't give up. She kept working until we created the Children's Health Insurance Program, and she worked with Senator Kennedy on that. We stuck it into the balanced budget bill. 75% of Republicans voted for it. There are 8 million children insured under the Children's Health Insurance Program today. It's a big part of the affordable care. Then she did something I didn't think she could do. She went to the man who disliked me most in the Congress. Tom DeLay, the Senate, the House Republican leader. You remember him?
Oh, yes.
And she said, now, Congressman, I know we don't agree on very much. He said, Hillary, do we agree on anything? He said, yeah, you love your kids, don't you? He said, come on, Hillary, what's that got to do with anything? She said, Congressman, for all of our disagreements, I know your children are adopted, and I honor you for adopting them. And we have this terrible problem in America because people are afraid to adopt children after infancy. They're afraid they can't influence them or they'll lose control or they'll make a mistake. And they're really afraid to adopt children with special needs because they're afraid they can't afford it. So I want you to work with me. Let's write a bill to give one of these big tax credits you Republicans love so much for people to adopt children after infancy. And let's do another one, even more for children with special needs. And let's give them more support. We cannot afford to have 18-year-old kids aging out of foster care with no education, no job prospects, and no place to live, wandering the streets of the night. In fairness to Tom DeLay, he delivered. And I signed the bill. And by the time I left office, there was an 80% increase in the adoption of children out of foster care. She always makes something good happen. So then, she becomes a senator from New York. And upstate New York looks a lot like eastern Washington. It's heavily agricultural. A lot of gun clubs and hunters. A lot of tiny manufacturers. And so is Long Island. There's a lot of farmers there, all family farmers, small farmers. So, first thing she did after 9/11 was to get President Bush to promise to give New York $20 billion to start again and repair the lives of the people who were broken. And he did, and they funded the regeneration of our city. And then she started working as almost a de facto governor of all these little groups that nobody ever tried to help. And then Katrina struck, and she decided that even though all these were red states, right? Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, Texas, that she was going to try to take care of them the way New York had been taken care of after 9/11. That the federal government may have messed up the response. That was not the people's fault. And the Senate Republican leader, Trent Lott, from Mississippi, got up on the floor and said, with a choking voice, that she had done more for the Gulf Coast area than any member of Congress of either party that did not live on the Gulf Coast. And he would never give up. And then, 2006, she was running for re-election, and the head of the Farm Bureau on Long Island endorsed her. The press runs up to him and said, I thought you were a Republican. He said, I am. He said, well, how can you endorse her? He said, look, all these politicians sound great at election time. All I know is she is the only person who ever actually did something to help the family farmers in this state. Now, then she becomes Secretary of State. She becomes Secretary of State, and she gets the only thing that remains of our attempt to get along better with Mr. Putin, the New START Treaty, which reduces the threat of accidental or intentional nuclear war. A treaty requires 67 votes in the Senate. That's a lot of Republicans. She got them. Then they supported her in imposing those sanctions on Iran, without which we could not have stopped their nuclear program for a decade. Then she became a de facto lobbyist for people who kept their jobs in America and were trying to save things overseas in a more aggressive way than anybody had. And she also looked for more friends and fewer adversaries. I don't know if I met a young person here in the audience from Kenya today, and our foundation works there, but Tanzania is next to Kenya, and it's heavily Muslim and Christian, more or less divided. You may remember that when I was president, there was an awful attack on the American embassies in Kenya and Tanzania, and many people were killed. So I got a picture in the mail the other day. It started my day off great, of a guy in the capital of Tanzania, Dar es Salaam, who runs a little, he called it a store, a shop. It's actually just one big rack of crafts on the street in the capital. And on the rack, there's a sign that says the Hillary Clinton store. Now, keep in mind, this is a place where there was a vicious Al-Qaeda-inspired attack on citizens of Tanzania that also killed Americans because they hit our embassy. Why did that guy put that up? Well, I'll give you one reason. With no extra cost to you, she did with the AIDS drugs we buy through the PEPFAR program exactly what we should do with prescription drugs here. She bought all generic drugs, and overnight, your money, no more money, instead of saving 1.7 million lives a year, was saving 5.1 million, 3.5 million more, and a lot of them were in Tanzania. They like you better than, and they don't care what your religion is. Now, that's my kid. Now, I literally, from the time I met her 45 years ago till we talked yesterday, she is the best change maker I have ever known. She always finds a way to make something good happen, to make people feel empowered, to buy people into the process, to make democracy work the way the framers intended for it to work. Now, if you don't believe we can all grow together again, if you don't believe we're ever going to grow again, if you believe it's more important to relitigate the past, there may be many reasons that you don't want to support her. But if you believe we can all rise together, if you believe we've finally come to the point where we can put the awful legacy of the last 8 years behind us and the 7 years before that when we were practicing trickle-down economics and no regulation in Washington, which is what caused the crash, then you should vote for her because she's the only person who basically has good ideas, will tell you how she's going to pay for them, can be commander-in-chief, and is a proven change maker with Republicans and Democrats and independents alike. This is an incredible moment for our country, but I completely understand why so many people are reluctant to believe. I understand it. This is I'm Irish. This is the 100th anniversary of the Easter Uprising in Ireland, which led to the war, which led to Ireland's independence from the United Kingdom, and led to Northern Ireland, like a sore thumb, staying up there in the United Kingdom because it was majority Protestant, and led to the troubles that dominated my young manhood until we got the Irish peace signed when I was president. So I've been thinking about this lately. The great Irish poet William Butler Yeats wrote a number of poems about this period. One of them said, "When things fall apart, the center cannot hold. We can't come together if things are falling apart." but I think we should try. If you think so, you should vote for her. Yates also said, one of the greatest, every person who ever wants to serve in any public office should remember this one line. He said, too long a sacrifice can make a stone of the heart. You think about how well that applies to troubles around the world and troubles here at home. And I'm just telling